What's going on, guys? I've got today for you 5 battles, 2 singles and 3 doubles. Forgive me if my voice sounds a little bit off. I'm a little sick at the moment. But what I've got today is my Johto team. These are all Gen 2 Pokemon. And one of the things you're about to see is that the selection of Gen 2 Pokemon in Sword and Shield is pretty limited, and I'm not especially good with the ones that there are. So, I start this first single battle sending out my Typhlosion. I set up the Harsh Sunlight, and while it looks like this is a bad matchup with Greninja against Typhlosion, with that Harsh Sunlight,
God, it's a one-hit wonder!
My Typhlosion has Solar Beam, able to take that Greninja out pretty easily in one shot. And then he sends out Mewtwo. And Mewtwo's always a real threatening Pokemon for me. You know, it's very strong, very fast, and it has no problem sending that Ancient Power to take my Typhlosion out. So I'm like, okay, fight Psychic with Psychic. I send in my Espeon. Espeon's not one of my best evolutions, but, you know, it's a solid Pokemon in general. I don't know what they were afraid I was going to use, but they swap out the Mewtwo for the Zacian, and I was planning to go with the Shadow Ball. Maybe they anticipated that. That clearly doesn't do much of anything to Zacian. It hits with its signature Behemoth Blade, and one-shots my Espeon.
God, it's a one-hit wonder! God, it's a one-hit wonder!
That's, you know, that always makes you feel good when you can take down a legendary with one hit, even if you're using another legendary. So they send out Arceus. I know technically Arceus is a mythical. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, mythicals are a subset of legendaries, and the Pokemon Company and lore whores can fight me about it. So they Terra their Arceus into normal. And it's, I think, a poison, holding the poison plate. Either way, it uses Judgment. No matter the type, that's going to be a strong move. But my Ho-Oh's fairly bulky here, so it managed to tank that really well.
God, it's a one-hit wonder!
And again, takes out the Arceus with one hit. I don't know how y'all pronounce that. Arceus, Arceus. Maybe if you're real stupid, you say Arceus, because that's dumb. But I sort of alternate between Arceus and Arceus. So here we've got legendary number 3 with Eternatus. Another one of my favorite legendaries, if we're being honest. I think it's awesome. Now I know that Sacred Fire is not going to do anything here. Its Dragon type is resistant. But Brave Bird, my Ho-Oh faints, but I do some solid damage. So my Ho-Oh went down, and that's a bummer. But I sent in my Ampharos. A lot of folks like Ampharos. This is a real popular Gen 2 Pokemon. And I do love Ampharos, but I've got some friends who really love this thing. I guess their favorite Pokemon. Anyway, one of the reasons I like Ampharos is because it can learn Dragon Pulse. And I feel like you don't normally expect just random electric Pokemon to have Dragon Pulse. And so that helps me finish off the Eternatus. So here comes the Zacian back in. And it uses Moonblast. I'm honestly surprised Ampharos managed to tank that. Now, the reason I used Cotton Guard here, as soon as I used it, I was like, that was a mistake. But I was thinking, Zacian is usually a physical attacker. So, this Ampharos is pretty bulky, but it was somewhat low health, so I was thinking, let me bulk up my defense a little bit so maybe I can tank some physical attacks. And then it ended up being a mixed attacker, which I didn't expect. You know, that was just outmaneuvering me. So then I send out my favorite non-legendary Gen 2 Pokemon, Donphan, Thankfully, it's also bulky, manages to survive that Behemoth Blade and get this Sandstorm up. Earthquake does manage to finish off the Zacian. You know, it's got the same type of attack bonus, so that did some heavy damage. And I thought that was going to be the biggest threat that I faced with the Mewtwo down, but then they send out a Giratina, because apparently this is just the team of legendaries. So I knew Donphan was not going to survive a Ghost-type move from Giratina. You know, I figured I'll do what I can, but the only damage this Donphan's going to get is from that Sandstorm. It was so weak, it was never going to survive that Shadow Force. So, I'm kind of thinking, how can I handle this Giratina? Can I handle this Giratina? And, of course, Heracross, I love it, is not a particularly bulky Pokemon, nor a particularly fast Pokemon. So, I tried to get the Shadow Claw. I figured I would get outsped, but, you know, maybe he would use something other than Shadow Force. It was kind of the only option I really had.
Gone! It's a one-hit wonder!
Anyway, you know, I did pretty well there considering all the legendaries. Got him down to just his last one, but, you know, I'll take the L. Now in the second single battle, he sends out the Galvantula, one of my favorite electric types. Love Galvantula. And again, I lead with my Typhlosion. He gets me with the Thunder, and I'm like, okay, you know, that's a tough one. Let me make this less accurate, setting up the sunny day, right? Because, you know, its accuracy is very, very low with Thunder when the sun is up. He sends out the Sticky Web. I expected that. You know, that was not a surprise. I didn't expect the Focus Sash. That would have been a one-hit kill had it not been for the Focus Sash. I'm guessing, obviously this was a Compound Eyes Galvantula, I'm guessing they probably also had a Wide Lens, or they just got really lucky, because I've never seen Thunder hit in the sun before. So I send in my Ho-Oh. I'm not real sure why I did. You know, looking at this now in hindsight, knowing that it's fast, accurate Thunder, I don't know why I sent in a flying type. Bad move, me. But Ho-Oh manages to finish it off despite, you know, losing over half its health. And then they send out their own Espeon. So, yeah, okay. Now this is obviously a support Espeon. Starts right off the bat with Reflect. Here in a minute it's going to use Light Screen, I think, if I remember right. So let me take advantage of that time I get there to use Recover. Get some health back, then I'll go into my double down on heavy fire damage, Terra Fire strategy here. And if you noticed, in some of the last battles, Ho is also using a light or a life orb, so that gives it some extra damage there. So I try to pull off the Sacred Fire here. I'm not real sure what it's going to do, since they did have the screens up.
Gone! It's a one-hit wonder!
It managed to take it out in spite of the screens, which was great. Now, here, I love this name, Plautista, for the Incineroar. Great name there. Unfortunately, my Ho-Oh does use physical moves, and there's the light screen up, so that Intimidate really undermined me. Not to mention, they had a weakness policy that got boosted when it was hit by that fairly ineffective Earthquake. So they get cheeky and use Flame Charge. I think they knew it wasn't going to do much damage, but I think they knew I couldn't do much. So they're just taking advantage of their opportunity to get that speed up there. So this is now a very bulky, very hard-hitting, and very fast Incineroar. I thought, you know, maybe I'll try and see if the boost to fire moves can overcome that light screen. I figured it wouldn't, but, you know, whatever. It's not like my Ho-Oh was going to survive. So I'm like, okay, let me send in a ground type here, Donphan. Sticky Web doesn't really matter because Donphan's already a fairly slow Pokemon. And then they've got Drain Punch, which is not only boosted with that weakness policy, but now it's going to be healing them. This was just a really well-designed team, with the Espeon to set up those screens, and then the Incineroar designed the way it is, and then with the weakness policy, that Power Trip also becomes a massively powerful move. So, really, by this point, I knew I'd lost this battle. You know, there was no winning here, and I gotta give it to my opponent here. The Espeon the Espeon Incineroar combo here was really well done, really well played. You know, this is not like that last battle where I'm like, okay, I lost, but you're a noob using a whole bunch of legendaries, and I still got you down to your last one, you suck. I don't feel bad about the fact that I am going to lose this battle. I was just genuinely outplayed and outmaneuvered, and, you know, how can you be angry about that? The Terra is also a great example of that. You know, he's got to know that if it's not water, fighting is going to be what his opponents use against this Incineroar.
Gone! It's a one-hit wonder!
So, Terra Ghost, once a fighting type comes out, gonna happen exactly like it happened with me here. I use a fighting move and can't actually use it because now it's Ghost type. Send out my Espeon. I don't know what it's gonna do. Psychic type against a Dark type. Not a real great matchup there, but, you know, maybe my Shadow Ball can do something. That was what I was thinking. The shields are down now, so I try to pop that off, and just bulky Incineroar here manages, albeit just barely, to tank that Shadow Ball. Oh, okay, so it did still have Light Screen. It was just the Reflect that wore off. Okay, well that makes a little more sense here. But, you know, again, like I said, just real solid strategy there. If, you know, my opponent here ever watches this, good job. You know, I was impressed. You just plain beat me here. The Sandstorm did manage to finish off the Incineroar, so, you know, I got a little bit of revenge there, I guess. But I do send out my Ampharos. We're not quite done yet. I could just see the writing on the walls. Ampharos is caught in a sticky web, and Ampharos is not a super slow Pokemon, so this actually does kind of hinder me. But, you know, fortunately that, what's the thing called? Staraptor. It damages itself with some recoil there, and I don't count that as a one-hit KO. I doubt it would have survived the Thunderbolt at full health, but it might have. But that recoil did enough damage that I'm not going to count that as an OHKO. Now this is a good type matchup for me. Water with Electric. Unfortunately, it's got the Aqua Jet, that priority move that takes out my Ampharos before I can hit it with a Thunderbolt. And that was the game. So, you know, when all was said and done, he still had 2 Pokemon. Even had I taken out the Ampharos, I wouldn't have won. But man, what a great battle. Like, I can't be mad about that. So this is the first of the 3 double battles here. And I don't know if I'd say I'm better at double battles, but I like them more. You know, you can get some more strategy here. And you can see with the first 2 Pokemon I sent out exactly what my strategy is. Set up the Sunny Day with Typhlosion, and then just fire damage everything with Ho-Oh. I don't like fighting Terrapagos. I've mentioned this in other videos. I don't like it. I find it obnoxious. And now I know that Palafin's going to come back out super strong, so that's a problem for later. But I haven't gone with the Terra yet. I don't actually remember why I didn't.
Gone! It's a one-hit wonder!
Which again, I count Mythicals as legendaries, whether or not they technically are. So, you know, now we've already seen half the team's legendary. That's not great. But I did at least take out that Pecharunt with 1 hit. So now we've got, okay, minimum 4 of 6 are legendaries. I'm not digging it. Got the 2 box legendaries here. So Typhlosion's got Lava Plume. Yeah, that's going to do a little bit of damage to Ho-Oh, but it's the only move I've got that can hit both of them. And I didn't really have great options in general. Typhlosion's got nothing that's going to be especially effective against dragons. We managed to take out the Koraidon, finish it off with that Brave Bird, but between the recoil and the Life Orb, Ho-Oh takes some heavy damage there. But Legendary down, you gotta do what you gotta do. As Palafin comes back out, Aqua Jet does nothing. I don't know where their IVs, or their EVs are, but it's clearly not attack. Like you saw a battle or so, the first battle. My Typhlosion's Solar Beam manages to make quick work of that Palafin.
Gone! It's a one-hit wonder!
And unfortunately, the Miraidon avoids the Sacred Fire, manages to get off the Electro... whatever the hell it's called, and finish off my Ho-Oh. I don't think Sacred Fire would have done a whole lot of damage to that with its Dragon Resistance, but it would have done something. So I'll send in this Ampharos. It's got the Dragon Pulse, so I'm thinking, that can help me here with the Miraidon. Now, of course, if you see a Terrapagos, you already know what they're going to Terra whenever they Terra. So here comes the Stellar Terra type super big form Terrapagos, which I hate. This is not fun to fight. And of course, as soon as my electric Pokemon gets out, the electric terrain disappears from the field. So I'm trying to get a little bit of damage off here on the Terrapagos. They pull off a Dazzling Gleam, dump some damage to both Pokemon. This is the other reason I don't like Terrapagos. It's got a really strong signature move that hits both of its opponents. Now, I've got Dragon Pulse with Ampharos, but I figure Dazzling Gleam hits both targets, so let me get just a little more damage on that Terrapagos. Electro Drift, that's the move I was thinking of earlier, manages to take out my Typhlosion. Not a big surprise there. Electro Drift is strong. There's not a lot that really tanks Electro Drift from Miraidon. And here comes another Terra Starstorm. I'm going to bet this is going to take out my Ampharos. I don't remember for sure. Oh no, Ampharos tanked it. Okay, good job, guys. This is what happens when you record a battle a week before you actually do the commentary. You don't remember what happens. So that last Dazzling Gleam finally takes out the Terrapagos and manages to get the Miraidon down to very low health. So I'm in a pretty decent position here. And
someone is a gigantic noob.
And they quit because they knew they were beat, like a friggin' noob. I hate that. Just take your L. Now this Koraidon actually worked out for me, because it already set up the sunlight for me. And hopefully you can see what I'm going to do here. This Typhlosion doesn't need to waste a turn on setting up that sunlight. It can already use Solar Beam. And with Meteor Beam on that Koraidon, I was actually kind of surprised it didn't have, the White Herb that lets it use a charge move in one turn. I almost never see people use Meteor Beam without having that.
Gone! It's a one-hit wonder!
But anyway, there's a Sandy Shocks down before it can do anything. And there goes the Koraidon. So, I start this battle 2 Okos on turn 1. So, they're not off to a great start. They send in a really pretty shiny Gliscor. I love that shiny. That's a cool one. And I was hoping they were going to send in a Hoot Hoot. They did not. It was Rowlet. And I don't know why they sent that in. Just to pull it back out. And I could see it if they were trying to bait a fire move, but I don't think that's what they were doing because they swapped it for another Pokemon that's
gone! It's a one-hit wonder!
Fire super effective against, so
someone is a gigantic noob.
And then they realize they're beat and quit too. So, back-to-back noobs here. So I use the same matchup, turn 1 here, that you've seen the past couple turns. And I go ahead and Terra the Ho-Oh. I think, let me start off strong, see if I can take out a few of their Pokemon before they can really get their momentum going. I figured that I would not be able to get the sunlight up for this first turn, but I also thought, you know, screw it.
Gone! It's a one-hit wonder!
And yeah, sure enough, I did not get that sunlight up. Fortunately, I do have the Terra there, and that Mismagius would have gone down in one hit if it weren't for the friggin' Focus Sash. Focus Sash is a great item, I get it, I use it sometimes, but man, it's obnoxious when the shoe's on the other foot. So here I send in my Espeon. I know I'm gambling here since Ghost is super effective against Psychic, but that Espeon's got that Shadow Ball and Ghost is super effective against Ghost. And they really loving their Ghost Pokemon here. Gengar, Mismagius, Chandelure. Love Chandelure. Favorite, well, second favorite Ghost type. Mismagius is my favorite. So I almost managed to take out the Chandelure with one hit.
Gone! It's a one-hit wonder!
They do OHKO my Espeon, but, you know, Chandelure did its job. And now, unfortunately, I was planning to hit Gengar with the Sacred Fire. And I think they probably knew I was going to do that, which is why they switched out into the Chandelure. And it was smart using my using Will-O-Wisp there to burn my Donphan. You know, not only is that going to do some damage over time, but it's really going to dent the physical damage that Donphan can do. So I just want to make sure this Chandelure goes down. I'm kind of pissed at it by this point, to be honest. So hit it with the Brave Bird. I really didn't need to. I didn't need to take all that recoil, but I wanted to make absolutely sure it went down. And I knew anything would finish off that Mismagius. Look at it the wrong way and it's getting finished off. So the Thunder Fang there will do that, even with the decrease to physical damage from the burn. And they send out Mewtwo. I hate fighting Mewtwo. I think it's a real cheap Pokemon, but it's a good one. So we got Mewtwo and Gengar back out, some Gen 1 heavy hitters here against some Gen 2, well, a Gen 2 heavy hitter. And, you know, nothing survives a Psy Strike from Mewtwo. My poor Ho-Oh never had a chance. Nothing's legendary enough, except another Mewtwo or, you know, maybe a Defense Deoxys to tank that real well. And Donphan's got no hope against a Hex from Gengar when it's already burned. You know, I see the play they were making here. That was smart. So, I'm down to my last two, Ampharos and Heracross. I already know Heracross is just going to be there to look handsome. Now, he pulls that Gengar back again. I don't know if he's trying to bait a move or if he just changed his tactics. But sends in, what was that, Indeedee, I think? Was that its name? It's one of those Pokemon I never use. Got the Psychic Surge here. Does the Terrain boost Psychic damage? I don't remember.
Gone! It's a one-hit wonder!
Thunderbolt does not do a ton. Ampharos is a good Pokemon, but Mewtwo is just real bulky on the special side, so I was not surprised that Thunderbolt was so overwhelming. That's about what I expected it to do. So they Terra their Mewtwo, because it's not strong enough on its own. You've got to double down on the psychic damage to make Mewtwo worthwhile, I say sarcastically. They make sure I can't target the Mewtwo again, just in case I've got a trick up my sleeve. I didn't. I'm just Thunderbolting everything here, because what else am I going to do? And we get a Animal Abuse Psy Strike.
Gone! It's a one-hit wonder!
Of course, that was a one hit, and that's the battle. You know, I'm mad about that one. A little salty, but not mad. Anyway, thanks guys. Hope you enjoyed these battles. Catch you later.